So you touched a little bit upon division. Now, we're having a recall election. That's happening. We're shooting these on Monday, and that's happening tomorrow. That is a very exciting and also a troubling sign, because when you have that many people that are dissatisfied with what's going on in their city to launch a recall, that's a sign that something's not exactly working well. Should the plant be built, it's going to dramatically change the way Benson looks and the way Benson feels, and the types of businesses that are going to be attracted to Benson. So, I'll have to ask you, what are your feelings about the plant? If we do get it, how is it? How can we let the folks that are concerned right now? Because if the plant is here, you'll still have folks that are very dissatisfied. If the plant doesn't get built, then of course they'll be happy, but then you'll have others that are going to be dissatisfied because the loss of potential jobs and all of these other things at the plant. So where do you stand?
Okay, to start with, I'd like to say that I think that the way it was done should have been done a lot more differently. The community should have been more informed in it, and they should have had more of a say at the very beginning of it. The plant itself, I am not happy that it's within the community. I feel it should be outside the community in industrial, because I grew up in North Carolina where we had cotton mills and all kind of different type of mills growing up. There were smokestacks everywhere, but there's not a smokestack. Not much of a smokestack here. And I know there's also, the only problem with the plant being within the community, the stories are out there too. There's not a lot of information there's so many different stories. And what happens is, I went down there and I did have a tour of the plant. And I did a ride with the gentleman that is in charge of it. And I did see, and I always thought like the different things are out there, like the tower's going to be in front of the plant, it's going to be in the back of the plant, it's not going to set 120 feet high. As far as you're going to see it up 120 feet high, you're going to see about 20 feet of it on both sides. Now, the concerns, the citizen has a right to be concerned about the different possibility of poisoning itself. I would not say that that's not a concern. I mean, you hear about what's happening in other communities and what it's done, possibly done. But I do know also that now, after talking with Bill, he did say that they are monitoring it more than what the EPA is allowing them, expecting them to do, making them do. They're doing it more extreme. So, I mean, we're in a situation right now is, what are we going to do about the plant? If the plant does come, we got to figure out if we can stop it or not, because so much has been done already between the permits and everything else. We just wait for a couple of calls, I guess, by my understanding, and coming down and making it done. Now, will the plant go away? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see how. I hate to say it now. The more I talk about it, how it's gonna go away, because this is election year. A lot of times, politicians won't make that tough decision on election years. So, is it going to start going? It probably will go on, and I'm not sitting here going to say that it's always the right thing to do, but in reality, what are we going to do about it? If it's going to come in, we all have to decide how we're going to do it. We're going to live here, or we're going to leave. My problem is I think that if we have any other type of industrial coming in, we need to build it on the outside of the community, because we still get tax dollars from it. People will be going to our stores, to our hospitals, to everything else. It's like we're business coming in. They're bringing tax dollars into our office.
Yeah, so one of the things that Aluminum Dynamics has done is, I think, has made people more aware of where those industrial zones are in town. Unfortunately, those are already there.
Yes, they are.
And not businesses as big as Aluminum Dynamics, but industrial businesses can move into these zones. And
yes,
so
they can.
If the only thing that's going to change is actually to take a look at where these areas are and begin the slow process, and it is a slow process of changing that zoning and expanding it further out. Of course, now, if you say to yourself, we don't want any zoning within the city limits, that zoning is there for a reason.
Yes,
and it's there to attract businesses. That is the very reason for the zoning. Now, if you don't want it next to schools, if you do not want it next to buffer zones, if you don't want it, close to the core of town, that's acceptable. That's a thing that you want to say. But there is a method, or there is a process of changing that, and that's going through the city council and the mayor and the planning and zoning, because there are planning stages all through the year where you can get involved. But that's not going to change what's happening now.
No, that's not going to change what's happening now. And also, as you were saying, if you don't mind me touching up with that, the mayor and council would have to completely get in there and make complete changes to our zoning regulations, which we're talking about here. And now, has that been done a lot? Not really. Will it happen? We can see, depending on what we got in there. You know, there's certain things that could come in still that's not going to harm our community. If it's a smaller type of industrial, and that's okay. But it's the fact that, I think the explanation of this thing coming in wasn't done correctly. And I think that if it was done a little bit better, I'm not saying we would have people rejecting it, but I also would say that I think everybody would have felt like they was in the known and they knew what was happening. And right now they felt like that was just something that was threw up here. And I will say that one thing that I don't understand is being on planning and zoning, being with the city for 25 years, I never understood how a permit like this never went to the city council. That's one thing that I really do want to look into if I get in there.